Okay, we're live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's department budget hearings. Tonight we will have three presentations: Department of Sports and Recreation, Department of Families, Children and Youth, and the Metro Hartford Innovation Services. My name is Councilman Amilcar Hernandez, and I am Chair of the Operations, Management, Budget, and Government Accountability Committee. This meeting is broadcasting live on HPA-TV's Xfinity Government Channel 96, Frontier Government Channel 6032. It will also be streamed via HPA-TV.org, HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV Apple TV, Amazon TV, and Roku TV apps. It will also be made available on the HPA-TV YouTube channel. I'd like to acknowledge all my colleagues present here today. On my left, we have Councilman John Gale. To my right, we have Council President Shirley Surgeon. For the first presentation, I'd like to introduce the Director of Families, Children and Youth Department, Christina Baldwin. Christina, introduce your leadership team, and then you can start with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, City Council. We so appreciate the opportunity to be here today to present our FY 2026 budget for the Department of Families, Children, and Youth. My name is Christina Baldwin. I'm the Director of the Department of Families, Children, and Youth. To my left is Shailene Lopez. She is our Assistant Director for Early Learning. And to my right is Christopher Marcelli. He is our Assistant Director for Youth Services. And we're also thankfully joined up here by Julian Friend, who is the Director of Management, Budget, and Grants. We're also joined here today with many members of our team. If it's all right with the council, I would just like to acknowledge them. So when I call your name, Department of Family, Children, and Youth, just stand up and give a wave, please. And thank you all for being here. We have Aiden Guadalupe. He's the Executive Assistant for Early Learning. Wanda Jacobs, she is a Principal Administrative Analyst. Sherelle Goldston, she is the Assistant to the Director of the Department. Tamika Thurston, she's the Administrative Operations Manager. Magdalene Garcia, she's our Principal Administrative Analyst in the Early Learning Division. Veronica Barrero, she's the Administrative Assistant for the Staff Family Child Care Network. Shanique Llewellyn, she's the Administrative Analyst for the Staff Family Child Care Network. We have Zoila Espinosa, she's our Parent Outreach Services. Melissa Miller is our Casework Supervisor for Youth Services. Joelle Sanchez, our Senior Admin Assistant for the department. Victoria Padua, our Administrative Analyst for Youth Services. Arnaldo Perez, our Principal Administrative Analyst for Youth Services. Anna Cartagena is our Principal Administrative Analyst for Early Learning. Candida Hubbard is our Teacher Assistant for Early Learning. Marlon Jackson is our Delivery Driver for the department. Milan Trung is our Program Manager for Youth Services. And where's Elizabeth? Okay. Elizabeth is our Administrative Analyst for our Youth Division of Early Learning. So thank you all for being here. Did I miss anyone? Okay, thank you. So thank you all for being here as well. I appreciate it. So now we can just go ahead and jump into the presentation. So the mission of our department is to ensure the well-being and success of all Hartford families. The department works toward this goal by promoting and providing high-quality early childhood education, workforce development, juvenile justice, community services, and other related programs. I would like to note that our department was significantly restructured as of July 2024. We used to be the Department of Families, Children, Youth, and Recreation. Since then, we have become the Department of Families, Children, and Youth. As such, we are currently undergoing a strategic planning process for our department, and our mission, vision, and department roles are likely subject to change. And I would like to acknowledge all of those that are helping to support in that process, including Council President Surgeon and Councilman Hernandez. Thank you. Our organizational chart looks as thus. We have our administration, our early learning division, our youth services division, and our family services branch of our department. We have 14 general fund full-time positions and 41 grant-funded positions for a total of 55 staff positions in the department. Next slide. Thank you. Some highlights for early learning. So in family and community engagement, this past year, we have hired a parent ambassador, and we also have 4 outreach ambassadors that volunteer with us to provide over 25 to 30 hours of community engagement monthly. Over 35 families receive direct outreach and navigation support from these positions to help guide them into early learning care throughout our community. We have 6 parent cabinet meetings, and through those parent cabinet meetings, we have engaged 40 families. So far this year, we have held 8 early learning parent activities featuring STEAM themes. Included in that are animal and plant life, bubbleology, storytelling, and painting night. We've also distributed bilingual family engagement take-home kits during our outreach and events. For events and celebrations, we held our 4th annual Hello Neighbor event in Bushnell Park, where the theme was Congas and Maracas Music Festival, and we engaged over 60 families at that event. To date, 220 children and families have participated in our Hartford Talks literacy-based learning program. And this year, we launched our inaugural Read to a Young Learner program in honor of Black History Month, where 11 city leaders read diverse and inclusive books on Black history with infants, toddlers, and preschoolers in our early childhood centers around the city. Also, through that event, we distributed 200 books to early childhood centers for them to replenish their libraries. And thank you to Councilwoman Rossetti and Councilman Hernandez for participating in that event.
I will tell you that I will never sit on those little chairs ever again. My knees hurt. That I'm getting old. I'm just putting it out there.
We appreciate the sacrifice. Exactly. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you do it again next year. Continuing with highlights in the early learning division, under nutrition and health, we served 3,970 meals through our child and adult care food program at Metzner and at our Metzner and Highland early learning centers. 50 providers have enrolled in our child and adult care food program, and 11 providers completed Go Knapsack wellness training. For enrollment and navigation, over 2,700 children and their families have been supported in formalized childcare. 82 new families have been recruited and enrolled in home or center-based childcare. 115 families received personalized support from the department's first ever service navigator, Zoila, who I mentioned earlier, and she's here with us tonight. 22 early learning centers received assistance with enrollment, and 15 families were referred through the Parents Connecting Parent Partnership. Our outreach supported increased access to early learning for immigrant families as well. Under professional development and workforce support, there are trainings offered on our CDA, pyramid model, NAFCC accreditation, business practices, and inclusive care, and those are trainings for our early learning centers. For data and systems building, we partnered with CT Data Collaborative to implement data systems focused on enrollment, tracking, and family engagement. We integrated the Sparkler developmental screening in classrooms with parent champion support, and our parent ambassadors were trained on OEC, that's Office of Early Childhood, census mapping tools to support family-level data collection. In our youth services division, we had 2,316 disengaged and disconnected youth. Those are youth between the ages of 16 to 24 that are not connected to school and or work that were served through our Youth Service Corps program, earning over $8 million and completing 1,847 service learning projects to date, and that's since the program's inception, which was in July of 2016. 818 Hartford youth were served through our Summer Youth Employment and Learning Program. 290 youth were served in prevention, crisis, and reentry programs as a part of our Youth Justice Initiative, with grants that were made to Compass for their Peace Builders program, the Second Chance Reentry Integration Program, ROCA, and Our Piece of the Pie. 58 youth were referred to our Juvenile Review Board as a means of diverting juvenile offenders from the justice system, and we do that using a balanced and restorative justice approach. 25 youth were served as part of our Rapid Response Protocol, which is an immediate and a coordinated response when there is an incident of violence amongst youth ages 12 to 24. And 40 young people were made as referrals to our truancy and family with service needs process and directed after that into community supports. For our community services, we developed a partner facility agreement in collaboration with our Sports and Recreation Department, which outlines the space usage for the facilities, and it allows us to optimize our resources and enhance our outreach efforts. We collaborated with various community partners and departments to support several impactful events, including our annual Community Health and Wellness Fair that provided health services for over 300 residents, a job fair which engaged 350 youth, a community baby shower that welcomed approximately 150 attendees, a Thanksgiving dinner celebration with approximately 450 individuals, and a Three Kings celebration for over 450 individuals. We have also hosted a series of community conversations for the Promised Neighborhood North Hartford Ascend Pipeline program with multiple partners. And additionally, just recently, as of last week, actually, we purchased and installed state-of-the-art technology, including digital signage and smart boards at Arroyo, Parker, Metzner, Highland, and City Hall. Next slide. We've had several employee engagement opportunities over the past year. We are very, very big on making sure that our staff has any professional development that they want and need. These are an example of some of the few that the staff have been through: Restorative Justice 101 and 201, CPR and First Aid, Health and Safety Training, DCF Mandated Reporter, Serve Safe Food Handling Training, Office of Early Childhood Trainer Approved Certification. I actually would just like to acknowledge Anna Cartagena, who actually received, was trained and received that certification, which is a huge deal. Anna, give a wave. Thank you. So congratulations to you on completing that. A certification in oral medication administration. We had our City of Hartford Human Resources Managers training and various target solution trainings. In terms of professional development, staff attended the Aspen Institute Opportunity Youth Forum, Connecticut Data, Connecticut ELDS, DOTS, and ECCP, Connecticut Youth Services Association Conference, Family Engagement and Supporting Multilingual Learner Sessions, National Leagues of City 100 City Summit, and various communities of practice for youth development professionals. In terms of employee engagement, I wanted to take a moment at this time to recognize 3 individuals on the Department of Families, Children, and Youth team. All of our employees are exceptional, but very few of them stay around to support their city in their capacities at City Hall for as long as they have. So we had one DFCY employee that was recognized for over 20 years of service at the City of Hartford. That's Candida Hubbard. Candida, please stand and be recognized. We had one DFCY employee that was recognized for over 30 years of services at the City of Hartford. That is Marlon Jackson. Marlon, please stand and be recognized. And we had one DFCY employee that was recognized for 40 years of service at the City of Hartford. The longest standing City of Hartford employee, Wanda Jacobs. Please stand and be recognized. So congratulations to all of them. 10. You're 20? Yes, thank you. Yes. So she's amazing. They're all amazing, but we wanted to make sure we highlighted them because they had huge milestones this year. So our strategic initiative, so for early learning, our strategic initiative is to ensure equitable and holistic learning and development for young children through multi-generational approach. We engage and empower parents, caregivers, and early educators as partners in our work helping to shape early childhood systems. We provide We provide access to responsive supports and innovative tools that help families to navigate, care, advocate for their children, and build community. Focus areas include expanding high-quality early learning access, strengthening the workforce, and accelerating early literacy and developmental outcomes. In our Youth Services division, we collaborate with system leaders and partners and act as a thought and implementation partner and action partner to improve life course outcomes for Hartford youth with a focus on engagement, employment, and justice. Our Youth Services division is Hartford's statutorily mandated Youth Service Bureau. And for our family services, we understand the importance of the family unit. We promote, expand exploration, skill building, and leadership opportunities throughout the city so that resources are accessible to all residents and community members with a focus on adolescent children, girls, and teens. Looking at our budget, you can see here what our adopted budget was in FY25 compared to the recommended budget in FY26, the dollar amount change and what percent change that represents. So in FY26, we have a recommended budget of $28,985,847. So the FY26 budget, the general fund budget of $3,590,337 reflects an increase of 5.6%. And the drivers of that include union and non-union salary adjustments, a shift from grant funding to the general funds for our casework supervisor position, utilization of our expansion funds to add 3 general fund positions, and an addition of $100,000 to support early learning salary increases. We did want to mention that in FY26, the grant funding is subject to change. We are anticipating a funding restructure from the Office of Early Childhood. I just wanted to make note of that. So looking at budget highlights in our areas of focus, again, we've funded a service navigator to support our family enrollment, workforce stabilization, and center vacancy reduction. We continued investments in our Parent Connecting Parent program. We expanded our child adult care food program to ensure access to nutritious meals with over 93,000 meals that have been served throughout early learning centers within the city and almost $400,000 being reimbursed. Deployed quality enhancement funds for educator training, infant and toddler care, in partnership with Connecticut Data Collaborative been secured. Grants support bilingual take-home literacy kits, STEAM activities, and culturally responsive outreach. And monthly peer learning sessions hosted over 170 family child care providers via the Staff Family Child Care Network. So with a workforce development focus, we had 10 providers that were enrolled and completed the Child Development Associate training. We had 34 providers that enhanced curriculum alignment skills through the early learning and development standards. Our pyramid model series, through that, 54 providers were trained in emotional and behavioral support strategies. 17 family and child care providers were nationally accredited through the National Association for Family Child Care. 19 providers strengthened their business and leadership skills through our Elevate Business series, and 41 providers were trained in trauma-informed care through Early Childhood Consultation Partnership, and 14 providers were trained through our CT Nurses Partnership. Strategic focus areas include expanding access to affordable, high-quality early childhood education, strengthen data-informed strategies, building a sustainable, well-supported early childhood workforce, promoting trauma-informed, inclusive, and culturally relevant care, and deepening family engagement through our events, activities, resources, and community connections. In our Youth Services division, we onboarded a new Assistant Director for Youth Services this year, Chris Marcelli, very excited about that. We have a fully staffed youth justice team for the first time in a very long time, which is inclusive of a casework supervisor, a juvenile specialist, and an administrative analyst. We completed partner engagement and data gathering for the 3rd and final year of our Unity grants. We held the 3rd annual Rock Your Future Mayor's Youth Employment and Empowerment Day this past March. which help to bolster and support workforce readiness and career exploration opportunities for Hartford youth. And that was done in partnership with Capital Workforce Partners, Hartford Public Schools, and various community partners and departments. We continue to offer our Youth Offender Care Coordination Initiative through our partnerships with CSSD, Compass, ROCA, OPP, SCRIP, and the Center for Children's Advocacy. And that program is designed to engage our highest need youth. We received our very first referrals this past year for our WISH initiative. That is our Wraparound Youth Supports for Homelessness initiative, which is designed to identify, support, and coordinate the needs of homeless or unstably housed youth ages 13 to 17 in Hartford. We did that work in partnership with the Center for Children's Advocacy, Journey Home, Hartford Public Schools, and a network of other CBOs. And we have begun our planning for our reinstated Youth Development Practitioners Academy. We're planning to launch that early next year. These following pages are just some highlights of grant activity that we have received over the past year. So we received grant funding from the Office of Early Childhood, a lot of grant funding from the Office of Early Childhood to support preschool and kindergarten readiness, for additional COLA funding, to focus on infrastructure and system alignment for early education growth. Over $5 million was secured for our child daycare funding, which expands access to high-quality daycare for infants and toddlers and to extend classroom capacity and access in high-need neighborhoods. We secured $112,000 to provide professional development, data enrollment, and system upgrades for monitoring and compliance. $15,000 was secured from the LECC and the Connecticut Network for Children and Youth to develop and support a Parent Ambassadors Initiative. Over $2 million was secured for the expansion of our infant and toddler slots for our staff family child care. Those are our home-based child care programs. And $100,000 was secured to build a comprehensive network of licensed daycare for our kith and kin providers. Over $500,000 was secured to support the Child and Adult Care Food Program. $691,000 used to support over 170 licensed staff family child care network providers. $60,000 was secured from the University of Connecticut in partnership with the OEC to support child care initiative for 3 years. We secured funding for our Parent Connecting Parents and Outreach Ambassador activities, funding from the Department of Children and Families for the Juvenile Review Board program, and that also includes a supplementary COLA grant that we just received. $183,000 was secured from DCF, again, for Hartford's Youth Service Bureau, for youth employment, youth justice, and capacity building. And we received $200,000 from the State Department of Economic and Community Development for youth programming. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our staff composition looks as follows. For residency, 60% of our staff are City of Hartford residents, 40% are non-Hartford residents. The race ethnicity breakdown, so Hispanic, Latina is 32.5, African American Black is 37.5, Caucasian or white is 15%, other is 2.5%, prefer not to say 12.5%. And for gender, we have 77.5% female, 20% male, and 2.5% prefer not to say. And that concludes our presentation for this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Baldwin. We're going to have one round of questions. It's going to be a very long round. It's only 3 of us, so we'll make it quick. So I'm going to start to my left with Councilman John Gale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. And thank you all for being here this evening. It's wonderful to see you all. I'm looking at your budget and the amount of grants that you're projecting for next year. And while I would say just about every other department that has come to us has had a decrease or a concern about their grant funding going forward, given what we see as somewhat erratic behavior coming out of Washington, D.C. So I'm wondering 2 things with respect to yours. A, how are you so successful? I think we need the recipe in increasing the amount of grants, it looks like by $8 million, which is phenomenal. And B, is there a concern that some of this will actually disappear?
Thank you for your question, Councilman. So I would say that the, success is largely due to the phenomenal work that the team does, led by both Shailene and Chris. I think that we have been able to demonstrate not only success, but for a need in the community. And thankfully, these funding sources that we receive have not yet been put on that proverbial chopping block, so we've been able to maintain. So that's not to say that we don't have concern. Obviously, we do. We receive some of our grant funding is from federal sources, and so there is a concern, especially, as recently as this morning, where we found out that some of our partners have had their grant funding dollars reduced or eliminated completely. So I will say that our grant funding portfolio is not without concern, but we maintain very good relationships, I think, with our grant funders, with our program managers at our respective agencies, so we're able to stay on top of it and to be informed when they're informed, and then that helps to provide us to be able to advocate for additional grant funding if we feel like some may be reduced.
Well, congratulations again to you and to your team. It's quite a feat. Certainly applaud you, and it appears that it's giving you the ability to hire some more people. We always appreciate hiring more people.
Absolutely.
Putting more people to work here at the city. One of the particular grants caught my eye here because we have an issue, not concerning your department, but concerning some other folks that used to work for the city, some retirees who are concerned about COLA. And I see you got a COLA, it says COLA funds, and so I'm just intrigued to know what is that funding source and what was the specifics of that grant?
Yes, thank you. So we did receive COLA funding that was state funding for a couple of different programs. So one funding source was through the Office of Early Childhood that we received COLA fundings, and the other state department was the Department of Children and Families. So again, those are state grants, so they provide them to us. 100% of those gets passed right on to the providers to support their COLA funding. So, I think that we're fortunate to receive them. I don't think that there was anything in particular that we did to secure those grants, but we are always grateful when they came through. And again, both of those grants are state grants.
And so that's some recognition on the part of the state that the program
Absolutely.
that they had been funding has some increases due to inflation and everything else, and they felt it was appropriate to send some more money.
Yes, absolutely. We're grateful to the state for that.
Got it. Well, thank you very much for that answer, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Well, let me start with the two budget questions, which are fairly easy, because I'm just curious about when you look at your budget, the one with the object line items, on row 488, it says food, and there is an amount of $24,790 there, which in any previous year we've never budgeted any money there. So I was just curious to see what the new need is that created the need to have that funding in that particular line item.
Yes, so for that food line item was moved from, it used to reside in, when we had recreation, it used to reside in the recreation division. So when we moved over, we wanted to make sure that we had a food line item for our department. So that's why you see the change there. So it was always part of our department, but just in the other division that was split off from us. And so now we've moved that into our department.
Okay. And then the last budget question will be, and this may be for you, maybe for Julian, operating transfer out, $130,000 as opposed to the $30,000 that we were accustomed to have. So that's an extra $100,000. Can you explain what that really means
Yes,
for
sure.
your department?
Yes, I'm sorry, can you tell me the line item?
Oh, that would be row 502.
For the, okay. Yeah, so that's the transfer for the increase in the staff salaries for the Early Learning Center.
Okay. All right. Now, the number of summer youth employment and learning program, number of Hartford youth enrolled, your projection is to be 800 youth. Is that, well, I mean, I know that the book was printed when it was printed, but I believe I heard that there's some funding that was reinstated last night. Does that change the number of Hartford youth that will be serving?
No, my understanding is that that reinstatement kept and again, I just found out the information yesterday as well, but it keeps the funding flat as it was last year. So that won't alter the number of youth served.
So you had already projected to receive the same as last year. Then we found out that it wasn't the case, and then now we're back to okay. So
Exactly.
it ended up working out for you anyway.
Exactly.
Okay, good. Then the last question is this body. I want to say late 2023, maybe early 2024. We passed a resolution that spoke about the connection between early learning centers and Hartford Public Schools, and one of the components of that resolution spoke about the data sharing, and spoke about, in some ways, it spoke about curriculum and the differences in curriculums that different learning centers have compared to what HPS has, and that data sharing. Can you give me a status of that? Because it's been quite a bit of time, and I know there was an MOU out there, and I know it was a lot of work and a lot of back and forth, but let's take the opportunity now to give me an update on that, because to me, that was like one of the core components of the 5 items that was on that resolution. That was probably the most important one. And I'm just curious to see, where are we with that particular item?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And I'll turn it over to Assistant Director Lopez to answer that question. And that's in regards to the Power School transition over. And we have our MHIS director here, Cherise Snipes, who has been very supportive in that transition as well. Shailene?
Hi. So right now, currently, we're transitioning into early start. So we are intentionally pausing on collecting and relying on our system as we move into Power School. As you mentioned, Power School was to align with the Hartford Public School systems, but right now the state is moving into a new initiative called Early Start CT. So with that being said, that new framework and expectation and that new model prioritize and integrating not only the child, but the family. So we want to be very intentional. I tell the team we're in part 2 of Power School. Right now, we're going to be in the implementation stages of what that would look like, but we want it to fit into the new framework of Early Start CT. So we don't only want to make sure that we align the system, but that we also have a system that's not only connected to the Hartford Public Schools, but with the state alignment of early CT start.
Is that technically doable to have? Is that technically doable to have 2 different data systems and be able to?
It's I would say yes, but it's an alignment that the state also is looking at. So we want to make sure, when we moved into Power School, we wanted to capture child outcomes. Now the state is moving into this new system that's going to start July 1st. So we position Hartford as the local governance partner within that switch. So that data component is at the table, and it's something that's being worked out not only at the mayor's cabinet level, at the state level in transition, but we want to make sure that we are positioned well, and that we don't implement a new data initiative that doesn't align with all sources, all partnerships.
Yeah. Would that include also the component of the family-owned centers, the smaller ones that don't have the capacity and the resources to?
Yes, that was the biggest reason. Not only the reason why we wanted to move into Power School was to capture child data at the 3rd grade level to see the impact that we have as far as coaching and professional development. We also wanted to ensure that the staff, family, child care licensed daycare providers that cover a big portion of child care, formalized child care, that they also have the opportunity to capture that data. We're currently capturing that data through our ETO system, which is the first data system that collects staff, family, child care data. So with that component, we're relaunching this start, understanding the technology, the data points, but also the alignment.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Council President Surgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director and Assistant Directors. Thank you for your presentation. And I'm really appreciate you bringing all your staff with you and introducing us. I see people in the hallway, so now I can align, don't remember their names, but at least I can align face. So thank you for coming and seeing what this is all about. One of the things you talked about in your presentation was the statute that creates youth division. Could you articulate a little bit more about that statute, that each town or city must have a youth division?
Yes, sure. So I'll turn it over to our Assistant Director for Youth Services to speak more about that. But as I mentioned earlier, it is the Youth Service Bureau, and almost every town or city in the state has a designated Youth Service Bureau that's charged with overseeing youth services. But I'll let Assistant Director Marcelli to give a little bit more detail on state statute. I think it's 10-19M, I think is the state statute.
Thank you, Director. I won't pretend to have the reference memorized for the statute number. I hope that that's correct. I'm not sure. But yeah, I will also try not to repeat what the Director's already said about the statute. So it lays that out in that fashion. In most municipalities in Connecticut, the municipality itself does establish the Youth Service Bureau as a department or division like ours. The statute also lays out multiple levels of a grant program run by the state to provide funding for youth service bureaus to support those core functions. And that is where, as you would have seen from a resolution we put through perhaps 6-7 months ago, that is where those DCF grants for the Youth Service Bureau come from.
Okay, thank you. You know, I do have one question from a constituent, which will add to my number of questions I can ask. Jeez. One of the constituents, I love when people watch television. They actually text you and ask you these questions. It says, the question is, are you tracking kids that in your program to see how they're doing around reading and writing?
Yes, so I will actually, both of my assistant directors can speak to what we're doing around literacy, both for early childhood and for youth services. So I'll turn it over first to Assistant Director Lopez and then to Assistant Director Marcelli.
People are watching.
Hi, yes, that's one of our 11 quality components. Magdalene Garcia runs and operates our Hartford Talks program, and with that alignment, we work with our working group. We have 6 working groups, and one of them specifically is called the Literacy Working Group, where it's a working group comprised of partners like the Dolly Parton reading the book. So they have a lot of initiatives regarding literacy, and they capture it in different ways. And they also provide support. So not only with Hartford Talks are we working with providers, we're also working with families and parents to really engage in talk and what that means like. So with the Hartford Talks program, it's a data system that collects cues. So not only are we able to generate reports of when conversations are taking place, what does that look like, we also coach them on different talking points to make sure that that engagement is being placed. So that information is looked at with our community partners within our working group that's specifically aimed at literacy.
So before you're the director, so, you know, 3 or 4-year-old or 5-year-old goes into the kindergarten program. You know, are we tracking to see what they did before in the...
Yes, we have a tool called Ages and Stages. It's a sparkler.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry. We have a tool called Ages and Stages. It's a sparkler tool. It's an assessment tool that is a child development tool that really assesses where a child's at. So this developmental tool, sparkler, kind of grasps where a child that is assessed not only their reading, but it also captures the 11 child development stones. So literacy is part of it, but it's also used as a coaching tool. We're not expecting all the children to come in at 3 to 4 years old with that tool, but what we do provide is the provider with the tools to make sure she's implementing it in her program. And that might look different across the board. We have over 22 early learning centers and 169 early learning staff, family, child care providers. So aligning that literacy component is really a tailored effort. Each program has their own way of operating their business.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, we're getting ready to kindergarten. Okay, or the kids go, leave our program and get into kindergarten. Do you pass on to the schools whatever your tracking has been for the years they have been with us, so they can see how the kids has either matured in this literacy or didn't?
Yeah, that's,
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, that's what Power School's intention is going to be, to really track those child outcomes. So once we implement the Power School database, we'll be actually able to capture exactly who was a provider that was in our ecosystem and that impact on the child. So that's what we're transitioning into. So we're really looking at how can we get all these different entities aligned in that same system. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. Technology training is one of them, but also curriculum building, like Councilman Amicar had mentioned. So there's a lot of different components that brings into, but Power School will bring that to light.
And could you use that information to sort of rate your other providers outside? Say their kids are doing really well when they get ready to go into kindergarten. You can say this is a five-star program or a 3-star program.
Connecticut currently doesn't have a quality rating system, but we do provide training for our providers to be accredited. So our programs are not only NIAC accredited, our licensed daycare providers are NAFTE accredited. That's a national accreditation for family and staff family child care, and along with our centers. So in order to provide funding, you have to go through those accreditations, and those are high accreditations to achieve. So all of our programs, including staff, family, child care, we worked, the team works really hard to make sure. Anna just had 10 licensed daycare providers receive their NAPSI accreditation. So that goes with that alignment of literacy and the child development and those milestones.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is he going to ask?
Yeah, sure. I'll add a little bit. With a slightly older group of youth, the Youth Services Division had a couple contracts in recent years, contracting out some literacy work for slightly older youth. Both of those would have been through the Unity program, making use of American Rescue Plan dollars. So they would have both wrapped up June of last year. One was with United Way, who I believe was also partnering with the Dolly Parton Foundation on book distribution. And the other program was with an organization called Read to a Child, which is based in Massachusetts, but works much more broadly, doing a volunteer reading to children program within schools. So I believe they are currently in 5 schools in our district, and a number of others in the area.
Thank you. He only allows 2 questions, but I think I get away with one more because I had a constituent question. On your page number 5, you talked about providing meals for children. Is that the same funding that comes across during the summertime? During the summertime you used to have programs? No.
No, when we previously, when we had the recreation division, our recreation division would distribute the lunches out at the parks, the playgrounds over the summer,
Yeah.
and at different sites. Yeah, that I believe those were funded through the school, I believe. This child and adult care food program is food that's specifically for our early learning centers, and that is national funding. That source is a federal funding, CACFP.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a reimbursement funding that goes to the providers who provide meals to the children in their care.
I'm just seeing if I have any more notes. We do have to definitely, I really want to acknowledge and thank the mayor for including in the budget the increase in the salaries for the, what is it? Not, I wouldn't say childcare providers, but
The early learning staff.
Yes.
early learning center staff, because I think that's one of the issues, you know, in getting people to apply for these really critical jobs. So now that, how is that working out?
Yeah, so I thank you for bringing that up, Council President. I would like to say, you know, and really acknowledge Shailene and her team. We have been working on advocating for that for the better part of a year. Shailene did an analysis, a statewide analysis, looking at the salaries. We wrote up a comparative analysis looking at standards from the Office of Early Childhood, as well as comparing around to other municipalities and looking at those comparisons, and then presenting them to the mayor and working really, really hard with Human Resources. So, you know, huge thank you to Human Resources, who then took that and did a lot of work with the unions. So it has been a very long time coming, but we are so thrilled and excited that it was approved and put into our budget. Our teachers, our early learning center staff are some of the hardest working individuals in any department in this city.
Yeah.
It is not an easy job. It is oftentimes a thankless job,
Yeah.
a job that not very many people can do. So it was really important to us, and that's why we put so much time, energy, and effort into advocating very hard for those salaries,
Yeah.
so that we can be competitive, so that we can adequately pay and reward our staff that we have on hand and retain them, and so that we can attract new talent in a competitive fashion for our early learning centers, because our children deserve the best.
Totally agree. Well said. Thank you for that. And is that what that COLA that Councilman Gale mentioned, how does that impact?
No.
No.
That COLA is not attached to that. That COLA is
Okay.
attached to other grant funding for other staff positions that we already have.
Okay. Good.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
I was going to break the rules anyway, because I do have one more question. So that's why I was sitting back eating my Skittles, you know, just waiting for you, because I had another question anyway. But I will make a comment, though, about the CDAs. I wish, and I know that, I don't know if this is part of the plan, that Hartford becomes an incubator of CDAs, that we could train and be able to have that pipeline of you know, what is it, Child Development Associates? I can't remember what CDA stands for.
Child Development Association, and I want to give a shout out to Anna and her team of folks who are, they just completed a training class for CDA, right, Anna? And she's starting one, I think, next week or next month, another group of cohort, and that's in a very extensive training. It's more than 10 months. And it's
So we
a
are
content-
already training folks.
We
and,
are,
okay, so that's,
we are training not only for CDA, for their bachelor's degree in early childhood as well. We prep them with San Juan. Anna had how many people graduate with their bachelor's degree now? 2 providers who received their bachelor's degree from San Juan for their early education.
that's
So,
awesome.
you know, the career pathway is very important because it's the only way they can sustain a decent salary for the work that they do.
perfect. So this is my closing question. It's a very high-level question, but we have heard of many youth programs that may or may not be here this coming year, whether it's because HPS have to reduce some of those you know, services, or whether because some of the federal funding that we've been accustomed for the last 3 or 4 years are no longer, you know, in play. And I'm talking about, well, HPS, they call them Tier 2, Tier 3 youth. I don't know if you use the same categories, but opportunity youth or whatever, however it is that we call it. But you know, the cohorts of youth that I'm talking about, right? So those are the at-risk youth. Seeing or foreseeing or seeing that much of this funding or this programming may or may not be, or it will be at a reduced level. How is your strategic thinking changing or adapting to these changes and possible consequences of that? You know, we know that our youth, the success of our youth is not a straight line. It's rarely ever a straight line. It's always, you know, they need all these services, they need all these components. any one component that you remove could be a big difference. So how is your department looking at the ecosystem that's outside of your scope, outside of your department, and saying, okay, these things are happening around us. How are we going to adapt to be able to fill the gaps as much as possible, or be able to not allow them to get lost in the shuffle or fall through the cracks?
Thank you. So 2 parts to that. The first part is that I do want to mention internally we have been looking at that. That is actually a key area of the work of Chris's division. So that is reflective partially in this budget. Again, thankful to the mayor for putting it in the budget, in that we advocated for the casework supervisor position to be moved from the grant to the general fund. That casework supervisor position oversees our youth justice focus area for the division, under which, our opportunity youth would fall underneath that division. So we have invested internally in that because, as you said, Councilman, while the funding, is in peril of being reduced, the need is still there, if not greater. So we need to make sure that we're equipped as a city to be able to adequately address the needs of those very high need young people. Right, so that's one way that we are looking at it, holistically or systemically internally. Externally or system-wide, we look at that work as very much a collaborative with other agencies. So we currently have Hartford Opportunity Youth Collaborative, right? It's a collaborative of individuals and organizations, which is chaired by the mayor, that focuses specifically on the work of opportunity youth in Hartford. But we know, based off of documents that were recently released, like the 119K Commission and other documents, that we should really be looking at that work regionally, if not statewide. So I think that what is going to happen as we're looking at reduced funding for opportunity youth is starting to, while we maintain our focus on Hartford, looking at branching out regionally and saying, how do we attack this issue to best support our most in need young people and pull our limited resources together as a region or a state. Because really, when you look at the whole scope of work, every community has opportunity youth, and thus every community has opportunity to make impact for those youth. So again, our youth, as under Chris's department, again, we have a lot of youth that are transient, a lot of youth that are unstably housed, that might move from community to community, so we can't operate in the silo that we have been, and we really need to think more broadly.
Thank you. Councilman, President Surgeon.
One more question, and that is, you said you started a new youth development practitioner academy. I wanted us to hear a little bit more about that.
Yes, I will turn that over to Assistant Director Marcelli. Very exciting initiative coming up.
Sure. Thank you, Council President. The Youth Development Practitioners Academy is actually an initiative that the department used to run some years ago that we're in the process of restarting, very much focusing on our role providing support to partners around the city, as the director was sort of describing in response to Councilman Hernandez's question just now. So we are often best positioned to act in that way to support our partners. So the Youth Development Practitioners Academy is going to be designed to provide essentially some professional development opportunities to staff working at partner organizations within the area of youth development. And as I'm sure all of you know, there's a lot of sort of staff turnover in positions like that and in organizations doing that work. And being able to provide some external support for that to our partners to make sure that we are helping to ensure a certain degree of people having the same training across organizations, having the same understanding of our local system and the way that things operate is something that we're really hoping to get started on very soon.
So you said you received your first referral for homeless support. Is that sort of tied into it too? No, so the Wraparound Youth Supports for Homelessness is a separate initiative.
related to youth homelessness and providing support to youth who either in some cases walk right in or in some cases are referred to us by other partners. So that primarily involves doing a basic intake, gathering some basic information on what's going on with that individual, getting a sense of what their situation is, who we might need to get in contact with based on who they're already involved with and what the details of their situation are. Sorry if that sounds vague, but it's a very broad set of different situations these young people might be in, and helping connect them to a variety of other partners who I think are listed in one of the bullets on one of those slides regarding the Wraparound Youth Supports for Homelessness initiative.
That's great. So does the Board of Education work with you with programs like this?
So we are actually very much in the process of figuring out better ways to cooperate with the district on these issues, knowing that while sometimes someone will walk into our office or be referred to our partners, the district staff have a much greater awareness of young people and their families who are dealing with this than we do. They have the day-to-day information. They're aware of a need numbering in the hundreds of families a year who have at minimum an acute need for solving this problem. And we are having separate conversations from what we are already doing with WISH regarding how we can better partner with them and work together to make sure that we can solve those acute issues for hundreds of families a year.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Director Baldwin, and the leadership team, and the entire staff that endured these 1 hour sitting, having fun, listening to all these things. We're doing this almost every day, so it's fun. So thank you all. We were going to take a 5-10-minute break to transition to our next department, which will be the Sports and Recreation Department, and then we'll catch up again in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome back to those that are watching us through HPA-TV. Now we have our second department of the night. We have with us Director of Sports and Recreation Department, Brian Gallagher. Brian, the floor is yours. Please introduce the leadership team alongside yourself tonight, and then you can start the presentation. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us tonight, City Council. On my right is Damian, who is our MSO to the department, and on my left is Christina, who is the Executive Assistant for the department, and much more. We're going to go through the PowerPoints. I'm not a big fan of reading PowerPoints as my teacher days, and so I'll go through them. If you have any questions, please let me know as we go through any of the slides, but we'll get right into it. Oh, Julian is not here. You want to slide that?
Oh, is that what it is? Do you want me to sit over there?
No, Christina. Christina.
I can go.
Yeah, Christina. Damian, you're getting yourself in trouble. There you go. First up is our mission for sports and recreation. Our mission is to provide high-quality sports, recreation, leisure programs, facilities that promotes physical health, community engagement, and personal growth. Part of the ways that we do this are by creating and running programs, staffing and running the centers and the pools throughout the city, by supporting community events, by programming in the parks, and by partnering with other community organizations. Next slide. For our staff organizational charts, so we are now at 11 full-time positions in this department. We have 2 vacancies at the moment, but we're working on filling those. We have 50 part-time staff that work regularly throughout the year, and then another additional 85 staff that are seasonal that work mostly in the summer between camps and pools. So that's our organizational chart. For some of our highlights from 2025, a big one was we created this department. So we started that this year. We're 10 months in on this department. A big piece was creating programs. We wanted more programs for the residents of Hartford in the recreation department. We have a wide variety of drop-in programs as well as pre-registration programs, right? We decided to have a good mix between the two, which, you know, previously there was a lot more just drop-in, and we've added quite a few programs. We're actually up to, this past winter, we had 125 different programs in the centers. We're averaging 253 registrations of Hartford residents in our programs per season. When we first started in 2018 using MyRec, we were averaging about 25 members joining MyRec per year. Just in the first 6 months since we've started this department, we had over 300 Hartford residents join MyRec, just in the first 6 months. And we use that to communicate with residents and sign up for programs. Collaboration and community organizations. So a big piece of what we're trying to do with this department is to collaborate with the community, right? For a long time, recreation has been spread out between the city, between a lot of different organizations. And part of what we're trying to do is work with all of them to come together and do it together. You know, it takes a village, and we really believe that in sports and recreation. So we've been doing a whole bunch of different programs with the community. We did our summer night gym program. We had over 1,000 Hartford youth that played sports over the summer in the gyms. We rented 4 Hartford Public School gyms. We partnered with 10 different organizations in the city, and it was free for all the kids. It was 4 to 8, Monday through Friday for 6 weeks. So that was something we did this past summer. We did midnight basketball program over the winter. We partnered with PAL and the police department and our violence and prevention department. And we had midnight basketball from 7 to midnight on Friday nights throughout the winter for people to come play basketball. We partnered with several different soccer organizations in Hartford this winter, and we offered a free futsal for their different teams. So we set up a league, and we offered it out to different Hartford soccer organizations to bring their kids and play for free in the centers over the winter. So by doing these different partners we're able to serve more kids in the city of Hartford. In terms of our organizational structure, as we're creating this new department, we're working on setting up new systems in place to be able to do things more efficiently. We've brought on different staff to help do that. Our MSO is a great example. There was not one for this before, and now we do, and is able to really work on balancing the budgets and all that with finances to make sure we're on the right track. And so a lot of that stuff has happened now with this new structure. We're continuing to grow that as well. We're in the process of switching over to an online scheduling system for staff, which was not done before. Previously, it was done paper and pencil in the rec centers. And so we're working on a whole bunch of different structures in place, and that's a big piece of what we did in 2025. Strategic initiatives, program participants. In participation. So we're really trying to push programs and getting more stuff for our families to do in Hartford. It's a big piece of what we're doing. We're constantly trying to look at what works and what doesn't work. So each season we're bringing on new programs. Some programs work and we keep them. We started a volleyball program back in the fall, and it was just one night a week, drop-in volleyball. We weren't sure how it was going to go. It's still running today because it's been great. There's over 50 people show up every Monday night at Arroyo and play volleyball. And it's a range of ages. It's a great program. It was something we originally planned to do just for one season, and because it's been super successful, we kept it going. And then we're also adding new programs. For example, this spring, we had T-ball that started on Tuesday this past week. It'll be again this Saturday, and we had flag football started this week as well. Going on this spring. So we're constantly looking to add more programs as well as the programs that just go all year round. Facility usage. A couple weeks ago, a month or so ago, we fully took over the MHIS system, which the city uses to not just permit fields, but we also use it to manage all of the rec centers in the city. So we manage all the different spaces, so organizations can reach out to us and book space for meetings, for events, and different events in the centers, as well as you can sign up for programs in sports and rec, all through MyRec. So that used to be several different departments were using it, but it wasn't working that well, and so we've taken it over completely, and so we're running all of it now through our department. And so through this, we're able to really look at other areas in the city, like we have some fields in Hartford that are only being used by one organization every single day, and it's not equitable. And so we're able to work with different groups to make sure that everybody has a place to play in the city. So it's one of the big things we're working on in terms of facility usage. Feedback for this coming year, we're working on now rolling out surveys to participants and families to not only figure out how well they like the programs or didn't like the programs that we have currently going, but what else they want to see. So we're looking to constantly get feedback on what's going on and what they want to see and what they want to have going on in the centers and in the parks. Financial performance. So we're figuring out the budget and working with that with what we have, and we're also looking to start going after grants. The midnight basketball this past winter was paid for by a grant that we went out and got, and same with the flag football this spring was paid for through a grant. It's something I did previously with Active City that we're now starting to do with sports and recreation as well. Partnerships and engagement. So a big piece of engagement is getting the word out, right? And it's constantly changing how to do that. When I first started running programs in Hartford, we just made 10,000 flyers and went to the schools and just handed them all out. And that's changed a lot. Now it's more social media, websites. It's constantly doing different stuff. So we're rolling out a whole initiative with social media that's going to happen in the next 2 months. We're also looking to revamp our website and how we recruit and have people register for programs to make it as simple as possible for Hartford residents to be able to sign up for programs and also know what else is going on. We're still partnering with Hartford Public Schools. We're still using Hartford Public Schools to get a lot of the information out because that's where the kids are. And so we're still doing that. But we're trying to be more creative on what we did. We did lawn signs as well this past winter to get them out and get more stuff visible in the community for people to see, to try to touch more residents in the city. For our budgets, so when we first came on 8 months ago, we were given a budget, and we've been, working inside that budget. We've ended up moving a lot of stuff around inside that budget. That's a big piece of what, you'll see in the difference between this past year to this year. It's essentially the same number. We only increased by 27,440, 1.2%, and that really just is for the increase in union and budget for salaries. Our expansion money that we had from last year that's still in the budget, we used that to have 3 new full-time positions. That's part of that 11 that we have now that are already filled. And we also put a lot of that money towards programs. Previously in the budget, there was not even a line item for actual programs, and now we're using a lot of that money to run programs, because that's a big piece of work, trying to do with sports and recreation. And so we shuffled around a lot of the money to be able to better use it for sports and rec. Some of the budget highlights, areas of focus. A lot of the same stuff we talked about. It's, planning and rolling out programs. So constantly working on different programs, figuring out what works and doesn't work. We're mapping out, instead of just mapping out what's happening this summer, we're working on mapping out what's going to happen next year. And so we're going to map out moving forward. We have a whole calendar now for the rec centers. You can look right now and what days the rec centers are closed, or if there's a special event going on. We have a rolling calendar of all that stuff. We're also working on planning out all of our programs that are going to be our core programs. As things come up, we'll add and change things to those, but we'll set up a whole calendar for the whole entire year. Similar to a lot of the suburbs, if you live in West Hartford or Bloomfield, you get a whole packet at the beginning of the year with all the different recreation programs that are going on in the city and how to sign up for soccer and t-ball and all this other stuff. And we don't have that currently in Hartford. And so that's a big piece of what we're trying to do moving forward, is to be able to have all of that. Not just what we're running also, but also what else the community is running, right? And to be able to market, we have a whole bunch of different programs in Hartford that exist, and people just don't know about them. We have 2 amazing double Dutch programs in the city of Hartford, but a lot of people don't know that. And so being able to promote that is a big piece of what we're trying to do moving forward, is to really promote all these different programs that are going on in the city. In terms of expansion improvements, looking to expand on some of the pilot programs that we're going. For example, like the volleyball, we're looking to expand more into volleyball. How can we do more volleyball programs in the city? We're going to add a youth component to it. Right now it's just drop in and play, so it's a range of ages that are there playing on Monday nights. And so we're looking to add programs based on the feedback we're getting from the community and what's going on. We're working with DPW and Paul Drummy to really be part of the conversation for facilities. I believe in the past there was not a lot of communication. I thought it was great that they moved us over to DPW. We're in the building with DPW, sitting in the meetings of, this morning we had a meeting talking about playscapes in the city of Hartford. What playscapes need to be renovated? What playscapes are well used and whatnot? And for us to be part of those conversations has been huge. The pools, for example, we were able to now look at the pools and say, hey, well, that we actually don't need that, we need this. We don't need all this fancy stuff, we need water in the pool, right? And be able to be a part of those conversations, and we were not part of those conversations before. So that's been a huge piece of what we've been doing moving forward, and being part of all those conversations relative to sports and recreation in the parks. Consolidation and growth, looking at some of the stuff that we've been doing, where we can grow and do more stuff, how we can consolidate some stuff to be able to expand, right? Our budget is exactly the same, right? So if we spend all the money we have this year, we're trying to do more programs for next year. How do we do that? And so it's looking at, the hours of the rec centers. We originally, when we first started, we were open at 8 a.m. in the morning at the 2 main rec centers. But we looked in our system, on any given day, there was between 1 and 3 people in the rec center before 11 a.m. Is it worth staying open at 8 a.m. for those 2 or 3 people and not opening up on Saturday or Sunday? Or should we open up on Saturday or Sunday? And so we're consolidating in some ways to a little bit less hours here so that we can open up longer here. and trying to do that. We're hoping to be able to expand more into the parks this coming year. We're hoping this summer, we're working on potential funding to do basketball in the parks. When I was a kid, I used to play for Elizabeth Park. We had a basketball team. We played against Goodwin and Cronin and Colt Park, and we're looking to bring that back this summer and some other programs like that that are in the parks for the kids. And so we're working on trying to, figuring out how we can move money around to do that as well. Staff composition, for our residents, we have 74% are Hartford, 26 are non-Hartford. We have Hispanic 35, African American Black 33, Caucasian White 13. And then for gender, we have males 59, females 40, did not say 1% for our breakdown of our staffing. And that's my presentation.
Good timing.
Try.
Thank you, Director Gallagher. I'm going to kick us off with one question and probably a follow-up after that. So let's talk about swimming.
Yep.
I think 2 nights ago, can't remember, I think it may have been you, Councilman Gale, that asked about the swimming pools. Yes, and then we were told that they are going to be ready, all 4 of them, the ones that are, the major ones that we're talking about, Goodwin, Cole Park, Kinney, and I'm missing one.
Pope.
Pope. That they were going to be ready, right? Contractors are in place, and whatever the case, that they are going to be ready.
Yep.
That was not the case last year, and obviously we suffered a little bit of that. And then in addition to that, there were probably other situations, because the ones that were open, I drove by and there was no lifeguards. They were not open for different reasons, right? So with that premise, my question here to you tonight is, are we ready this year to have those pools open at the times that we announced that they are going to be open at all times?
Yes. For the first time, and as long as I can remember, we're going to open up in June. Usually it's July, after 4th of July. When I was a kid, the pools were open from when school got out to when school went back. We're trying to go back to that. So our plan is to open up June 16th. We'll have lifeguards ready to go. If everything goes as planned, the pools will be signed over to us from the contractors the middle of next month, and we'll start working to fill them and get them ready to go. Because last year we raised the salary for lifeguards, which was
I was going to go there after,
yes,
so go ahead.
Right. So previously, lifeguarding classes, we were doing 1 a year. We were getting a small handful of kids that would sign up for the class, and that's pretty much who we get hired. We don't have people coming from outside that want to come work here, right? And so we need to grow them ourselves. Currently, we have a lifeguard class of 18 students, which is the largest class in memory of lifeguards, and our plan is to hire all of them. We're going to train them over the next month, and we're going to hire them for the summer and be ready to go. Our plan is to be open 7 days a week to run programs, not just have free swim, but run lessons, run junior swim teams, the whole 9 yards at all 4 pools.
And you are counting enough lifeguards, so when they do the rotations and they got to take that break, that mandated break they got to take, there will still be enough lifeguards to continue the rotation, and we don't have to close down the pool for an hour.
Yeah.
And so that's the plan.
Our plan is to be open, and to be open as much as possible, and to not have to take breaks. In the last couple of years, they've had days where, they only scheduled 3 or 4 lifeguards because that was all that was available, and then one calls out and it's not safe to open, so they end up closing days. Our plan is to not have that happen at all this summer.
Perfect. So now, with that premise, on page 21-3 on your budget book, on your KPIs, well, I call it KPIs, but they are key performance measurements, measures, so KPM, I guess. Then I found it very interesting that not on that book, there you go, 21-3, is that, yes, on that other, the budget book, the big budget book, you have the page.
Yep.
So you see the last 2 at the bottom. So then explain, how does that work? That you're projecting that this year, with all the pools that were closed and all the different challenges, that you are estimating that next year, for this coming fiscal year, you're still going to have the same number of visits and the same number of residents enrolled in swimming lessons. How can I explain that? If what you're saying is true, that we're going to have more pools open and more time, wouldn't the goal then increase?
Yeah, so our goal is to increase. Part of what's happened in the past is how they are being tracked. So up until very, very recently, like the last couple months, they were not being tracked through the MHIS system. It was an estimation, it was a guess. Oh, I think there was this many people came into the pool today, especially at the pools, right? At the centers, you know, they were doing sign-in sheets and stuff like that. That was not happening in the pools. So now we're actually signing kids up for programs. So the numbers that we have moving forward, like from this past winter, or this winter moving forward, are actual numbers. Numbers of kids physically signed up for programs in MyRec. And they're scanning in to go into the centers. We're working on currently how we're gonna do that outside in the pools and in the parks, and how we're gonna be able to give you an actual number. In the past, that was not the case. It was, hey, we're gonna do swim lessons and we're gonna do 50 of them for 10 kids apiece. Okay, we're gonna have 50 kids, but it's not real. And so a big piece of what we're doing now is, you know, moving forward, it's gonna be numbers that we can back with actual data.
Well, that's important. I am a big fan of the key performance measures, and I read them all the time, because I like to evaluate and figure out, okay, are we doing better?
Yes.
And that's the best way to really measure. I mean, other than satisfaction surveys that you could do, you know, to the population, which are very subjective. This is a very more, you know.
Yeah, and so what's going to end up happening is this year you're going to look at the numbers for our rec centers, for our pools, and if you look at them compared to the last couple of years, it's going to look really low, right? But the reason is that they are factual numbers with actual data.
Okay, thank you very much. Council President Surgeon.
Thank you, Director. Thank you for your presentation, and welcome to your first budget hearing.
Thank you.
So, you need to be initiated, okay?
Okay.
So next year will be nicer for you.
Gotcha.
Good job. Okay, so in your presentation, you see like you have about 4 people for the administration and 7 in the full-time general funds, right?
Yep.
How many summer recreational summer staff is there?
So currently on the books, we have, there's 135 part-time staff. Out of that 135 part-time staff, 49 of them, 50 of them work throughout the year as well.
Okay.
In our pools and in the rec centers, manning, I mean, you show up to any of the centers in Hartford, they are run by our staff, right? You go into Arroyo, Parker, right, Metzner, they're all run by our staff, and that's that staff, right? Most of them are part-timers, and some of them have been doing it for a very long time. Then there's another 85 staff that are seasonal. So out of that 135, 50 of them are work all year round, and then the other 85 are seasonal lifeguards, camp counselors, that kind of stuff.
Is that in your budget?
Yeah.
And so basically your total budget, because I see here you, for sports and rec, I see them 1.8 million, but it says general funds position 7. And then it says, and then four. Oh, okay, I didn't see that part. Is that out of the 1.18 million, out of the 1.8? In addition, so this seasonal part-time is not the year-round part-time, the 85 seasonal is in this 1.8. Okay, I didn't have my my little spreadsheet. Okay, because I'm looking at him saying, how can 7 staff?
Magic.
That's why it kind of like, okay, I'm gonna have to
Yeah, and
ask
that's
this
part of what
young-
we did with the expansion fund money is to add,
Yeah.
to be able to add more full-time. So before we added the 7, we added 3 more to have, added that funding.
And your class of 18,
Yes.
How many of them are Hartford residents?
All of them. All of
All
them.
18?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness, we're going to have all 18 swim instructors?
That's the plan. The plan is to have all 18. We actually have 4 people that already applied, that already were certified, and we're working on hiring them right now. And then we have 18 more in the class, and we'll go through and hire them. As soon as they finish the class, we are physically going to hand them an application at the end of the class to then join, to come work for us. We already
Impressive.
worked with HR is going to even be there to help us, right? Because part of the problem with a lot of 16-year-olds is they don't fill it out correctly.
Yeah.
Something happens, they don't get hired, and so HR has been great about working with us to try to make sure that they all get hired.
Yeah, because those were the concerns last year.
Yes.
You know, the length of time it takes to
Yes, that
hire.
has been a big issue. That's something we're working on with HR as well, to try to figure out how we can do that better, right? I mean, we had, last year, there were a couple kids who were in the class who applied for Hartford, but then they also reached out to West Hartford. Hartford hired them within 1 week.
Wow.
West Hartford hired them within 1 week, whereas it takes us about 2 to 3 months.
So that is going to change.
Yes, and that's something we're working on. It's not going to be, immediately right now, but it's something we're working on with them. But that's part of why we also moved up when we're doing the class, how we're doing the class. We're working with HR to streamline the process of them filling out the application, to get as many of those things out of the way.
Just like how you promised to make sure on June 16th, I am going to be visiting
Sounds
to
good.
make sure the pools are open.
I'll be there.
All right?
Yeah.
That's what
the
he
day we're
said.
opening. That's what we're
That's
trying to
when he said
open.
the pools are going to be open,
Yeah.
June 16th.
June 16th.
Oh.
That's why I did it.
So make sure you get a birthday cake when he
There
shows
you
up
go.
too.
Yes.
Okay? But we are showing up, so feel
Yeah,
sorry for you,
it's-
Director, if it ain't open in June 16th. I'm retiree and I'm getting up just to come to make sure the pools are open. Just want to make you feel a little
Perfect.
bit more guilty.
Yes, I got it.
Got it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy that you're using the MHIS system a little bit better. I was at Parker, I go once a month for meetings, and boy, that place is jumping, with all these kids and the music and everything. It's really nice to see that. One of the questions I do have, though, as they come in and they get their little things,
Yep. Barcodes. Yep.
the barcode things,
Yep.
how many do we charge for out-of-town residents when they sign up?
We don't.
Why is that?
My understanding is it's a policy made by City Council.
So come on, council.
I'm all for it. We've actually been talking that a whole bunch about trying to figure out a way to, because that's part of the problem. People will come and they'll sign up, and they'll come and sign up for our programs, and we'll find out afterwards they're not even Hartford residents, or
Yes.
come to the pools, for example, and we don't ID them to come into the pool.
Yep.
But now that we're creating this MyRec
Yep.
system, then we can now figure out and say, hey, same thing with organizations that want to use our centers.
Absolutely.
Right, we had an organization reach out to us. They were trying to book one of the centers to come do an event, and after we dug down into it, we found out that they're from Manchester. They're not even from Hartford, but it's free in Hartford, so they want to come use our center.
So why don't you work with Councilman Billy Dew, who's the chair of that department?
Yep.
And see if we can get an ordinance on the books
Perfect.
for that to happen. Are you on that committee? Are you on? Okay. There's a few of us on the committee because first of all, it was just great to see people in the rec center. Don't get
Yes.
me wrong.
Yep.
Okay. It's just that I saw a lot of people didn't look like people who live in the city that was using the rec center.
Right.
And they were all there for lessons, for the swim lessons
Yep.
with their kids.
Yep.
So if we can put something on set that policy,
Definitely.
please, that as soon as possible, working with us on getting that done. I am happy, and makes me kind of not difficult I am, can be not a happy person. I would admit that to everybody. And so far, the directions I've seen the recreation and sports is going, I gotta give him a compliment. I'm gonna beat up. I can't get anything to beat up on him on. I'm working
Appreciate
on it, except for the 16th of June if the pools aren't open up. He's
I'll-
got
I'll
issues.
I'll put my hose there myself if I have to.
Okay, and even when you graduate, these 18 kids from the swim class, please let us know sure one of us will show up, just to thank them, to being, working in the city. But I'm happy with the new programs, except being West Indian, I love volleyball, but traveling all the way over to over to Aurora. So when are we going to have?
So we actually just started netball.
Oh,
over
yes,
at Parker.
absolutely.
So we partnered with another organization that was already doing it in the North End. And so they've already started doing netball over at Parker.
What day?
I want to say Wednesday nights. I'll get back to you. I'll let you know.
Okay, yes,
I'll find out.
because there's a large West Indian community
Yep.
who would definitely participate with netball.
Yep.
Oh, that would be awesome. Well, see, he's making me happy.
Trying.
Nothing else to beat up on him, man. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director. Good
Thank
job.
All right, Councilman Gale.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for getting all of this stuff going, all of you. Congrats on your first 10 months. And I love the fact that Council President's talking about making you a revenue center.
That's
This
huge.
book we've got, there are pages in here that talk about revenue. We would
Yes,
like to
ours
see a
is not,
line item.
there's no page for us there.
No, but we're looking forward to seeing that. Certainly love all the programs that you've spoken about. All these programs involve getting somebody involved in something sort of organized. And I'm wondering, and this is a multi-part question, because, you mentioned like the playscapes. Now, playscapes could have some degree of little programming, or some college student or part-timer in the summertime keeping kids engaged in some manner or another. You talked about yourself being involved in a basketball program, but not every kid plays basketball. Not every kid plays soccer, but every kid could probably use to be somehow engaged or socialized. I think both are probably great goals in these things. So I'm wondering, what the future is for utilizing our parks, our playgrounds, and our schools. And we've talked a lot about all the facilities we have at schools that are seemingly go unused. So I'd be interested to hear to what extent you've been able to coordinate with the school system, found them to be somewhat receptive or not. Let us know. And to what extent there is now starting to be a little coordination. And, Rome wasn't built in a day. We're not expecting any of this stuff to happen overnight, but, if we could look down the road at a 5-year plan, at a 10-year plan, what are we looking at?
So in terms of the playgrounds, yes, 100%. We would love to be able to expand more into the parks. When I first came in, that was a big piece of my vision for this department, was to be, in the parks, so, like a lot. If you're in a building, you're in a gym in one of the schools, you're in one of the rec centers, people going by don't see you. They don't see the programs that are happening. And the best way in Hartford to catch kids, to get people to sign up, is by them seeing you. When I first started running soccer programs, I used to move soccer fields throughout the city. I would go and we'd get them mowed, and I'd move over my portable goals, and then I would catch kids from different neighborhoods. And that's part of how we recruited kids from all over the place. And so I'm trying to do some of that. We started our street team where we can go out into the community. We have a van. We're using one of our vans. We have it full of all different sort of recreation equipment, from not just basketballs and soccer balls, but also, art equipment. We've got a whole bunch of different stuff, games they can play. I have all different ages and levels, and to be able to bring those out and bring recreation to the community. And that's something we'd like to expand on as we can afford more staff down the road. That is part of what we'd like to do. Right now, we have to minimize, hours in the morning to be able to open up hours on Saturdays and Sundays with the budget that we have. And so that's kind of where we're at. And that's something we're looking at with grants to be able to, right now I'm working on potential funding for the basketball program for this summer. Also the gym program for this summer, to redo the gym program this summer, to be back in the schools, because it's expensive. Last year, the gym program, it cost the city of Hartford we got half of it paid for in a grant, and the other half was paid for by us, and it was $140,000 to rent 4 gyms for the summer.
Our own gyms.
Yes. So, you know, it's not easy. It's something we're working on. We are meeting. I had a great meeting yesterday with the athletic director from the Board of Ed to try to figure out how we can coordinate some programs together, how we can do some stuff better together. And we started talking about the idea of some of the gyms, right? You know, in the summer, they're all empty, or besides summer school, and so we coordinate some of the big gyms. But during the school year, all the elementary schools, or most of the elementary schools, are empty in the evening. And so there's an area where we can then try to utilize those spaces to have programs, not just for programs for us, but also community groups. There's a lot of different community organizations that don't have space, especially in the winter months. And so to be able to coordinate with them and the schools to say, okay, let's partner this organization with Noah Webster and this organization with this school, to be able to make sure that we have programs throughout the city and using those spaces. And so part of how we're doing that is trying to partner with other organizations to be able to work together on that, to kind of help with the funding piece. But it's manpower in terms of, you know, being in the parks, you know, bringing back, there used to be a playground program in the city of Hartford. When I was a kid, you know, the Llanos actually, one of the people who ran the program down at Elizabeth Park, and used to learn how to make bracelets and do arts and crafts. And they had a whole table set up, and you can go down to the playground, you know, Monday through Friday and learn how to do all that stuff. And so I'd love to be able to bring that back. We just need more staff.
You don't get it if you don't ask for it. Keep asking. You talked a little bit about some programming for council president. It strikes me that she's a senior, so I want to talk about some other senior programming. Thank you. That was said with respect. So I wanted, you know, reaching to the other end, I started talking about the kids in the schools and the playgrounds, but looking at the other end of it, programming for seniors, I've heard some complaints about a swim program at Pope Park that did exist that may not yet have reopened or may not be reopening.
So we started originally working on some senior programming in the pools, where to do water fitness, just come swim and relax. And we were working with some of the senior centers, and we went over and did some marketing, some advertising with them. But Pope Park's indoor pool is freezing. And so after doing some deep dive into the pool and what's going on, we found out that the system that heats the pool is 1/3 the size that it needs to be. So we have since fixed that problem. Everything's been approved. We're waiting for the contract to actually happen. But it's supposed to happen in the very near future to be able to fix that pool. And then we'll be able to do senior programming. The pool will be warmer, and more people will come and swim in it, not just seniors, but everybody. And so, you know, that's been probably some of our problems with that pool. A lot more people go swim at Parker than at Arroyo because of the temperature of the pool. But part of what we did is we went out. We now have exercise bikes and exercise machines that go in the water for people to be able to use and do exercises in the water. It's pretty cool. So we've been trying to do some of that stuff. We recently just hired an assistant community rec counselor, and she's coming to us with experience running programs for seniors. So that was a big reason why we just hired her, is to be able to help us run more programs for seniors.
So along those lines, do we have any pickleball courts? And if
No.
not, are we going to start striping some I first brought it up to this council maybe 2 years ago, and everybody was like, what's pickleball? And I don't know if they've seen it yet, but it's taken over the country. And everywhere around here, the towns have taken their tennis courts and have turned them into pickleball courts.
We started taking our tennis courts and turning them into futsal courts in Hartford. So there's actually
Probably a better use for some of them, I agree.
Well, so you think about, you know, the culture of who lives here in Hartford, right? And so, like, our futsal court at Cole Park is packed every single night. There are people playing on it. And there's different futsal programs going on. Some of the soccer programs are working on putting together a league this summer for futsal. And so that's definitely one of them. But In terms of, yes, pickleball, I know there's a Hartford Decides, I think that's one of the Hartford Decides programs that's coming about, is potentially putting in a pickleball court. So you can vote and see if you can get it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
One other, thank you for mentioning the senior program, the swimmers thing. Could you work with the North End Senior Center?
100%.
You know, because that's only not that many, couple miles from Parker.
Parker, yeah.
And we can get the seniors down there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big piece of what we're trying to do, especially because, like, a lot of when you go into the rec centers, a lot of them are busy. So we have a group that comes in around noon. If you go in the rec centers, there's like a lunchtime group. A lot of guys come in and play basketball or come and work out. People come and work out. But before noon or between noon and 4 o'clock, it's pretty empty. And so that's a big piece of what we're trying to do, is try to find, people who can come in during that time, and we can run programs during that time.
Yeah, because the seniors are pretty good in coming out early.
Yeah.
They don't like the late evening.
Yeah.
Also, if I look at these teenagers, all they do is the internet games and all that sort of good stuff. Not everyone wants to be active.
Yep.
So are we doing anything for the ones who want to do the game stuff?
Glad you asked. So we're actually using some of our funding from this year to put 2 e-gaming rooms into Arroyo and Parker Center. And so we're starting out with, we were hoping to do a lot bigger, but with funding, we're going to do like a pilot program. So we're going to have in both Arroyo and Parker e-gaming rooms that are going to go in this summer that are more than just e-gaming. It's more than just coming in and playing video games. There's going to be a drone pilot program that goes along with it. There's podcasting. It's a whole creation. It's way above my head in terms of this stuff. But it's super popular all over the country. I mean, now a lot of schools are getting involved in it. There's college scholarships now for e-gaming. So we're working with an organization that's also working with Hartford Public Schools to put in this e-gaming room in the 2 different centers.
Sorry. How many people at one time could go in this room?
So I believe it's 6 councils, 2 people per council, plus there's 2 like video game councils as well. They're saying about 20 participants can be in the room. Even with this small pilot program, we'll be able to go in there and be able to participate. And part of why we're looking at this organization is part of what we're paying for is also classes for participants. So we're going to have classes where it's not just playing the games. We're going to have tons of times for them to just come in and play the games, but we're going to have actual programs where they can come in and learn how to fly a drone and then race drones, which then relates to jobs down the road.
Which relates to the airport that we have. Then there's a school for.
Right, and so there's a whole so we're using the e-gaming to hook them and bring them in, and then there's a whole bunch of job readiness stuff that goes along with that we're looking to bring in, and that's part of why we're also looking, instead of just going to Best Buy and buying a whole bunch of PlayStations, we're buying these specific game consoles that can do a lot more than just play video games. But yes, I agree. The e-gaming has become huge.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Director Gallagher, and to your team that came and sat here now for 2 hours now, since we started at 5:30. So thank you very much for your presentation, and we're going to take a 5-minute break to transition to the next department, MHIS. Thank you.
Go ahead. All right, come on, talk.
Okay. Welcome back to all the viewers through HPA-TV. We are now going to our third department of the evening, and we have with us our Director of Metro Hartford Innovation Services, commonly known as MHIS, Charisse Snipes. Charisse, the floor is yours. Please introduce the team alongside yourself tonight, and then you can start the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hernandez, Councilman Gell, Council President Surgeon. Thank you for allowing me to present the MHIS 2026 recommended budget. Before I start, I just want to acknowledge my team behind me. It's not all of us, but there's about 20% of us here. You may have seen them assisting you in day-to-day work. We have our security team back there who keeps us safe from, you know, all these cyber attacks and threats that, you know, come to us daily. I'm going to start off with our mission. The mission of Metro Hartford Innovation Services is to provide secure, proven, innovative technologies that enhance operational efficiencies while providing convenient access to government and educational information systems for the City of Hartford, the Hartford Public Schools, the Hartford Public Library, and the Hartford Parking Authority. Next up is our department organization chart. We have about 41 positions. We have 5 current vacancies that we are working with HR to get those filled. A few of them are brand new, so they have to be brought before the union before we can get them out for people to apply. I'm going to go into our 2025 highlights. This is just a few on these next few pages, but there's a lot more that we do that's not listed here. So in 2025, we worked on the conversion of the early child data system with Power School in conjunction with Department of Youth Services. We migrated the health department website from a siloed website that wasn't, you know, part of the city website, so now they're part of the city website. We created various one-off reports for different departments. Examples include longevity reports for the assessor's office and HR and a city employee consensus. We automated risk management reports for different departments. We automated grant management software for software data extraction. We assisted Hartford Public Schools health-based clinic recover money and backfilled the database with payment information. We created a new open data site to replace the Socrata open data site, which saved us about $78,000. We implemented a 311 mobile app from a vendor called City Gov app. We supported HHS OD2A multi-town overdose project. This involved performing data analysis, creating maps, and developing a dashboard from the analytical results. We also developed a website to verify swimming pools in the city. We developed a mobile survey for HHS pest control. We developed monthly status reports for 311. We developed monthly status reports for the rental licensing program. We developed monthly status reports for zoning enforcement. We upgraded our data center network infrastructure to something that's more frequent. We installed a private HeartLink fiber and converted 131 Coventry Street and Pope Park Rec Centers from basic internet to enterprise fiber. Maple Ave Rec and HPD Affleck substations are the next sites for conversion. We upgraded through federal E-rate wireless throughout the schools so that project is completed. We're working on upgrading the city wireless to a multi-gig next-gen system. We upgraded a HPS LAN backbone speed from 10 gig to 40 gig. We are in the process of upgrading all of our systems in the data center to enhance performance, bandwidth, and scalability. We designed and deployed cameras for the Hartford Public Schools. We built a new data environment to improve performance, security, redundancy, and scalability for city data. We continue to improve the city's security posture, ensuring that all measures are up to date, effective, and resilient against emerging threats. No security incidents. We haven't had any resulting in downtime, a testament to the effectiveness of our layered security approach. Our proactive measures have paid off. The first line of defense remain with our users, who we've equipped with ongoing cybersecurity training to recognize and report suspicious activity. We combine with our technical controls. The human firewall has been instrumental in providing successful attacks. More than 50% reduction in city account compromises since last year, most likely a result of multiple factors, continuing training in HPS communication and enforcing multi-factor authentication while off of the city or school network, enforcing MFA registration while on our trusted internal city network. In addition to that, the schools were paying a company to stream their sports games at night, so we developed a free solution for them using the cameras in the schools. Now our students and their families can see the videos on demand for various sports. We set up and configure over 3,000 devices for high school students for the new school year. Our yearly stats from July 1st to 4/2/25, the help desk, number of tickets to the help desk for the city was 3,838. For the schools, it was 9,364. Of those tickets, the city, we closed 3,182, and for the schools, 8,736. And some of those include projects. Our survey results is 4.1 out of 5. Our business strategy encompasses multiple facets and calls out common themes where technology can be an enabler. If we wrap this in a single paragraph, it would be improving existing city services and creating new possibilities via technology anytime, anywhere the city needs it. This includes delivering stable, responsive, and available technology platforms that provide the city the foundation needed to deliver cost-effective services with ongoing strategies of cloud, business analytics, and security. Our budget this year had an increase of $400,502, and most of that was from union and non-union salary adjustments and software and equipment service contracts and communication equipment maintenance costs. Our budget highlights an area of focus, technological advancements, upgrade network infrastructure at the public safety complex, upgrade our telephone infrastructure. It's starting to be dated, so we're going to be updating that sometime soon, and implement new security controls. Security is an ongoing task for us because it just never stops, so we're going to continue those initiatives. Manufacturer maintenance cost increases. I like to negotiate with vendors. I don't usually take their first cost when we go out to buy things, and I feel like we're the capital city, so you're going to benefit from it by getting funding, so we need to get something back. So that's the approach that we're using, and we're going to continue using that going forward. And that entails the vendor service cost increases as well. Staff composition. So within MHIS, 8% are City of Hartford residents, 92% are non-City of Hartford residents. Race and ethnicity, Hispanic 8%, African American 33%, Caucasian and white 52%, other 7%. Female 16%, and male 84%. Yes. That concludes my budget presentation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director Snipes. I have two very easy questions. But before that, can you introduce the team that's with you on the table?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't do that. Next to me, I have Brett Floating. He's our Enterprise GIS manager. Next to him is Joel Figueroa. He's our Network manager. That entails wireless, internet, everything. So if you have questions, those are the two. get him. And GIS is all of our maps, all of our data, all of our, apps and dashboards and things like that. To the left of me, I have Mr. McBride. He's in charge of the IT support. So he manages most of the team that's behind me, the field techs and the help desk.
Thank you.
Team behind you.
Yeah.
So let's see, let's introduce.
Oh, we're
All
gonna
right,
test.
I'm
We're gonna
ready.
test your memory.
So in front of me, I have Zafar Native. He is Nadeem. He is a field tech. I have Mary Risenward. She is our principal administrative analyst. I have Jamel Hamani. He's our security analyst, one of them. I have Jonathan Lazarus. He's our other security analyst. Behind him is Daniel Alves, field tech. Next to him is Nelson Alves, help desk. Next to him is Connor Hornigold. He is our senior systems analyst. Behind, stand up, Marco Morales. You probably have seen Marco. He's one of our field techs. Paul Salo. Paul, stand up. There's Paul. Yeah, you all know Paul. Next to him is Norman Stewart, field tech. Next to him is Ash Terada, field tech. And next to him is John Fort, help desk.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for sticking, through this evening, with your department supporting this part of the process, which is extremely fun. So here's my question. So the industry of IT, this industry is very competitive. How are you doing with retention? Has that been an issue for you or not at all?
No issue at all. We have a very good department. The staff, they're happy, I believe. So no issues. We do get, we just posted a security analyst position. We got 20 applicants, so we're going to be doing those interviews tomorrow and next week. So there's a lot of people interested in working for the city IT department. Whenever I go to a conference, I'm always asked, do you have any openings? Do you have any openings? So I think retention is good. We have a good culture that we built over, the last 15 years. And everyone's sticking around. Some of them started when they were 21, and they're still here. Some people have been here. McBride hasn't been here for 30 years. Brett has been here for 19. Joel has been here 17. So we have some people behind us that's been here for 25 years. I think the least amount is a year that someone's.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's wonderful.
Have you thought about any way that that we can create some sort of pipeline between high school students that are interested in this industry and I say that only because with that 8% of Hartford residents within your ecosystem, it brings up the question about what else can we do to encourage our young people to that are so IT driven to apply and work for their own city where they live. Is that something that you thought about, creating some type of pathways or connections or something that could help increase that interest?
Yeah, so we partnered with the Hartford Public Library. They have a IT program for youth 18 to 24. And within that program, they're able to get certified. And then once they, before they finish their certification, they come and do an internship with us from about January to June. So we get about 5 people a year. I actually just signed the document today. In conjunction with that, we're trying to figure out something with the capital workforce. Last year we tried it. We kind of didn't get our ducks in a row, but we're trying to bring in more. I would love to see more females in IT, but it's kind of difficult when you don't have that direct connection. So that's something that has been on my mind, and hopefully we can figure out how to get them in here.
Perfect. Yeah, and I mentioned it because there are other similar programs. For example, OPP has the Digital Dividends program, and Hartford Healthcare, they do, after they get certified, Google certified, Microsoft certified, after they get certified, they rebuild computers that Hartford Healthcare provides to them to refurbish. After they go through all the program, it takes about 6-7 months.
Yeah.
Then Hartford Healthcare has been able to hire, including, in fact, one of the first ones through the program, he's now a supervisor already. during in the Hartford healthcare ecosystem, and similar programs like that. I thought that it would be beneficial, for the city to also, participate in something similar that could support that effort. Well, thank you very much. I'll now go to Councilman Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. And I probably go through this every year. So you work for both the Board of Education and the city. And the numbers, though, that are presented to us are just the city side of your budget. And there's another side of your budget. Am I right about that?
Yes.
So when our budget book says that there's 20 employees, that's not the whole department, I take it.
No.
So how much is the whole department?
41.
41. The statistics that you gave us at the back, is that for the whole department, or is that just the city side?
The whole department.
That's the whole department, okay. And the dollars that we're funding, let's see, looks like our recommended budget is just shy of 6 million. How much is the board side of this budget?
About 4.1 million. And I could provide you with the spreadsheet that shows the breakdown between both organizations.
Would you please?
Yes.
Yes, appreciate that. Is there anybody else, or are those your two customers, the city and the board?
Well, we support the library. We host their whole infrastructure in our data center, and Joelle's team does a lot of work with the library. We do work with the Hartford Parking Authority as well, and we are just in talks with starting to provide them with field support. Again, we're just trying to figure that out.
But the library doesn't contribute to your...
No, they do not.
They do not contribute to your budget.
No, they do
Nor does the Hartford Parking Authority. Anyway. The only contributors to your budget are the Board of Education and the city.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's it. That's all I have.
Council President Sergio.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. It is great to see your staff here with you. Yes, I definitely would agree. I remember meeting, I think what did we call her, BB? When we had our City of Hartford had their presentation downstairs. So it was nice to actually see your young lady from your department. But we'll work on that. I only have one question because, two questions. How is our computer, or how is our internet access here in City Hall? Is that getting any better?
Yeah, it's better. We're upgrading the wireless too. Remember last year you asked about the wireless, so we got funded for that, and we're currently performing that upgrade. So.
Okay. Yeah, I got to check with the staff. All right. And there's a smile, so that means it must be better. Thank you. And how are you involved with the AI center that DDS has been working on? Did they bring you guys into that prospect? No.
No.
Oh, okay. I mean, you would think, with talking about AI, doing an AI center here in the city of Hartford, you guys should be involved in the conversation.
I think at some point we will. It's in the beginning stages, so if that is funded, I believe at some point we will have some type of insight in there, because
So
it all deals with data. So,
do you have anyone in your staff who right now could, sit into these meetings and listen to get ready?
yes. Actually, yesterday, the three of us attended the AI event in Hartford.
Yes.
And we learned some things there as well. So, yeah, we're starting to do that.
Okay. I just want to make sure that your department is involved in it, because I think we need to get ready for the future. So I will certainly encourage our development service department to get you guys more actively involved, as they finalize and as far, as working and getting their funding, because whatever happens, you guys will be involved. So thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation. Thank you for all the internet access. Really appreciate it that we're working on that. And Mr. Chair, I'm good.
All right, well,
I have one more thing. It's
Go
a
for it.
story about, so we're still looking for ways to expand the free Wi-Fi. And we're actually about to apply for a grant to go towards that. But there's a story that I just wanted to share where one of our seniors in the Blue Hills area, the fiber got broken, and her daughter called in to us and asked when it was going to be back up because her mother relies on it 100% for her finances, for her virtual health care, and for her visiting nurses. So we rolled the truck out to make sure that it was back up, and she was so grateful for that. So that right there keeps us, with the momentum. I mean, there's not much grants out there, but I've been in talks recently with the state, so we're going to be submitting. We actually have a meeting tomorrow to talk about it. So we're still in that fight to get broadband access.
Oh, that is a great story. One of the things is I know there is a class at the library at the Blue Hills, at Albany and Blue Hills, and a whole bunch of seniors go there.
Yes,
And they are now into FaceTiming with their kids and everything else.
they know how to use it. They know how to
They
use
do.
technology.
I'm
Yeah.
impressed with our seniors.
Yes.
See, John, we do some good stuff, that. So thank you, Director.
You're
You guys
welcome.
have been awesome. Thank you,
Thank
and
you.
thank your department.
thank you. Before we depart, I want to make sure, Councilwoman Rosado, do you have any questions or comments for MHIS?
No, apologies for coming on late. I was just concerned about the expansion of the Wi-Fi through the entire city. I remember when we had kind of like the groundbreaking at Parker Memorial when COVID hit. But I'll catch up. I'll send out an email and have my questions answered that way. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, well, thank you. You good? All right, so that concludes our evening. So thank you very much for your presentation, and to the entire staff for being here. So this is amazing to see everybody and get to know and see faces. Sometimes you know the names, but not the faces, so I'm happy to be able to make that connection. So thank you very much, and that concludes our meeting.